In the vast darkness of space, something is moving through our solar system that defies every law of physics we thought we understood. Its name is 3I Atlas, and it is unlike anything humanity has ever encountered before. For months, astronomers have been tracking this mysterious visitor, expecting it to behave like every other piece of cosmic debris that has wandered through our celestial neighborhood. Instead, this object has been rewriting the rulebook in ways that should be completely impossible. What started as routine observations of another interstellar wanderer has transformed into one of the most baffling mysteries in modern astronomy. The object shoots light beams in directions that violate fundamental physics. It changes colors like some kind of cosmic chameleon. Its chemical composition reads like someone mixed random elements in a laboratory without bothering to consult the laws of chemistry. And perhaps most disturbing of all, its trajectory through space is so precise, so calculated, that it looks less like a random rock and more like something following a carefully planned route. Scientists at Harvard University are quietly suggesting something that sounds like science fiction. They are proposing that 3I Atlas might not be natural at all. They are asking whether this could be artificial technology from another civilization, a probe sent across the vast emptiness between stars to explore our corner of the galaxy. And if that is true, if something intelligent designed this object and sent it on its journey through our solar system, then we must face an even more terrifying question. If 3I Atlas can target Mars with surgical precision, demonstrating the kind of navigational control that should be impossible for a natural object, what happens when it decides that Earth should be next on its itinerary? When the impossible becomes reality. Through the eyepieces of the world's most powerful telescopes, astronomers watch 3I Atlas drift through the darkness like a frozen mystery wrapped in cosmic silence. Every observation brings new questions. Every measurement reveals another impossibility. This is not how space objects are supposed to behave. This is not what comets do. This is something entirely different, something that challenges our most basic assumptions about how the universe works. The first signs that something was wrong came when scientists noticed the brightness changes. Normal comets brighten gradually as they approach the sun, following smooth mathematical curves that astronomers can predict months or even years in advance. The heating process is straightforward. Solar radiation warms the icy surface, causing frozen materials to vaporize and create the characteristic fuzzy appearance that makes comets beautiful to observe. It is a process as predictable as sunrise, governed by laws of thermodynamics that have held true for billions of years. 3I Atlas decided to ignore all of that. Its brightness exploded from barely visible to clearly detectable almost overnight, then crashed back down without warning. These were not gentle transitions. These were violent, dramatic changes that happened so fast they made professional astronomers wonder if their expensive equipment had suddenly malfunctioned. Instruments that cost millions of dollars, calibrated to detect the faintest whispers of light from the edge of the observable universe, were all telling the same impossible story. But brightness fluctuations were just the beginning. As more telescopes turned their attention toward this mysterious visitor, they discovered something even stranger. The light was not coming from a fuzzy cloud of gas and dust surrounding a solid core, the way it should for any normal comet. Instead, the light appeared to be generated directly from the object's surface. Imagine finding a snowball that somehow produces its own internal lighting system, glowing from within without any external power source. That is the level of strangeness we are dealing with here, the rebel that broke all the rules. Every piece of space debris that wanders through our solar system follows certain predictable patterns. They are the rules of celestial mechanics, laws as reliable as gravity itself. Objects heat up as they get closer to the sun. They develop tails that stream away from solar radiation. Their brightness changes follow mathematical equations that scientists understand completely. These are not suggestions. These are fundamental principles that have governed the behavior of every single comet, asteroid, and space rock ever observed in 4 billion years of solar system history. Then came 3I Atlas, and it looked at these ancient rules and decided to become the rebellious teenager of the cosmos. It rejected every expectation. It violated every pattern. It did things that should be physically impossible, according to everything we know about how matter behaves in space. The first major rebellion came with the color changes. As 3I Atlas moved through the inner solar system, it shifted from red to green in a transformation that happened far too quickly and at completely the wrong distance from the sun. For normal comets, color changes are gradual events. Different chemical compounds heat up at different temperatures, causing predictable shifts in the light spectrum as the comet approaches our star. These transitions take weeks or months, and they correspond directly to the comet's distance from the sun and the amount of solar radiation it receives. 3I Atlas completed this color transformation in a fraction of the expected time. It was like watching a traffic light change in fast forward, cycling through colors with a speed that matched no known natural process. The timing was all wrong. The distance was all wrong. The intensity was all wrong. Everything about this color shift violated the basic chemistry of how frozen materials respond to solar heating. Then came the brightness fluctuations that made the color changes look tame by comparison. As the object entered the asteroid belt region, it began to pulse with light in ways that defied explanation. Sudden explosive increases in luminosity would occur without warning, as if someone had flipped a switch inside the object. These bursts did not correspond to any predictable heating patterns. They were not triggered by changes in solar radiation exposure. They appeared to operate on their own internal schedule, following a rhythm that had nothing to do with external influences. Professional astronomers plotted these brightness changes and stared at the resulting graph in confusion. Most comets produce smooth curves, elegant mathematical functions that rise and fall in predictable ways. The brightness curve of 3I Atlas looked like a chaotic stock market chart during a financial crisis. It spiked and crashed at seemingly random intervals, creating a pattern that resembled anything but natural celestial behavior. The light that defies physics. Of all the impossible features displayed by 3I Atlas, nothing compares to the light beam. This single characteristic alone is enough to make physicists question whether they understand the fundamental laws governing how matter and energy interact in space. What 3I Atlas is doing should not be possible. It should not exist. It violates principles so basic that they are taught in introductory astronomy classes to students who are just beginning to learn about the cosmos. Every comet ever observed in human history develops a tail that points away from the sun. This is not a minor detail or an obscure technical point. This is one of the most fundamental and obvious characteristics of comets, visible to anyone who has ever seen these celestial wanderers grace our night sky. The reason is simple physics. The sun constantly emits a stream of charged particles called the solar wind, along with intense electromagnetic radiation. When this energy hits the gas and dust surrounding a comet, it pushes the material outward, away from the sun, creating the beautiful streaming tails that have inspired artists and poets for millennia. The direction of comet tails is as reliable as water flowing downhill. Solar wind pushes outward. Comet tails point away from the sun. This happens every single time, without exception, governed by forces that are as fundamental as gravity itself. It is a law of nature, confirmed by billions of years of observation and supported by our deepest understanding of how radiation pressure works in the vacuum of space. 3I Atlas looked at 4 billion years of established physics and decided to do the exact opposite. Images from the Hubble Space Telescope show something that should not exist, a beam of light stretching from the object directly toward the sun, not away from it, toward it. The structure extends 10 times farther in the sun-facing direction than in any other direction, creating a cosmic lighthouse effect that has never been documented in the entire history of astronomical observation. This is not a subtle anomaly that requires sophisticated computer analysis to detect. This is a massive, obvious violation of basic principles that is visible in raw telescope images. It is like discovering water that flows uphill, or fire that freezes instead of burning. It is a direct contradiction of laws we thought were absolute. Scientists have tried desperately to explain this phenomenon using conventional physics. They have proposed that maybe unusually large chunks of solid material are breaking away from the sun-facing side of the object. Perhaps these fragments are heavy enough and durable enough to resist being pushed backward by the solar wind. Maybe they somehow manage to float in front of the object while reflecting sunlight in unprecedented ways. But this explanation requires 3I Atlas to be made of materials far more solid and stable than any comet we have ever studied. Normal comets are often described as dirty snowballs, loose collections of ice, dust, and rock held together by frozen water and various other ices. They are fragile, easily disrupted by solar heating. Finding an object that can produce such massive, stable fragments that resist solar wind pressure would require a completely different type of construction, something far more robust than anything natural processes typically create. The intensity and focused nature of this light beam raises even more disturbing possibilities. Natural processes in space typically create diffuse, scattered light patterns. When sunlight reflects off cosmic debris, it spreads in all directions, creating the soft glow we associate with comet atmospheres. Concentrated directional beams that maintain their focus across vast distances are not something nature usually produces without help. The precision and stability of this forward-pointing structure strongly suggests some kind of organizing force. Something is maintaining the focus of this light beam. Something is preventing it from spreading randomly the way reflected sunlight normally does. Whether that something is exotic physics we do not yet understand, or artificial construction and control mechanisms, remains an open and deeply unsettling question. Chemistry that makes no sense. When scientists pointed their most advanced spectrographic instruments at 3IATLAS, they expected to see a familiar chemical signature. Comets have been studied for centuries. We know what they are made of. We understand their composition. Water ice makes up the bulk of their mass, mixed with frozen carbon dioxide, various organic compounds, and rocky dust particles. It is a recipe as familiar to astronomers as bread and butter. The chemical analysis of 3I Atlas came back, reading like someone had taken random elements from across the periodic table and mixed them in proportions that violate every principle of cosmic chemistry. The breakdown showed 87% carbon dioxide, 9% carbon monoxide, and only 4% water. This is not just unusual. This is completely backwards. This is like discovering a fish constructed primarily from feathers and concrete instead of flesh and bone. Finding a comet that is mostly carbon dioxide with almost no water is equivalent to discovering an iceberg made of sand and metal instead of frozen water. It does not fit into any existing category. It does not match any known type of celestial object. It represents a complete inversion of everything we thought we understood about how materials accumulate and form bodies in space. Water is abundant throughout the universe. It forms easily whenever hydrogen and oxygen come together under the right conditions. In the cold outer regions of solar systems where comets are born, water ice is supposed to be the dominant material. Carbon dioxide can be present, but it should be a minor component, not the overwhelming majority. The ratio found in 3I Atlas is so reversed from normal expectations that it suggests this object either formed in an environment completely unlike anything in our solar system, or it was assembled artificially using materials selected for purposes we do not understand. The James Webb Space Telescope revealed even more chemical impossibilities. The presence of significant amounts of nickel without any corresponding iron deposits creates another puzzle that defies explanation. Throughout the universe, nickel and iron are cosmic twins. They form under nearly identical conditions during stellar nucleosynthesis. They have similar chemical properties. They occur together in meteorites, asteroids, and planetary cores. Finding them separated is like discovering identical twins who have never met. It simply does not happen in nature. The isolation of nickel suggests that 3I Atlas either condensed from materials in a stellar environment radically different from anything we have studied, or these elements were deliberately refined and purified through processes that do not occur naturally. The carbon monoxide adds yet another layer of chemical impossibility to this puzzle. While this molecule does exist in various cosmic environments, finding it in such high concentrations alongside carbon dioxide and isolated nickel creates a signature that does not match any documented natural formation process. Every element, every compound, every ratio in the chemical makeup of 3I Atlas points towards something that should not exist, according to our understanding of cosmic chemistry. It is as if someone took materials from different environments, refined them through processes nature does not provide, and assembled them into an object designed for purposes we cannot fathom, the Harvard hypothesis that changes everything. When Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard University began publicly discussing the possibility that 3IATLAS might be artificial technology rather than a natural object, the global scientific community took notice. Loeb is not a fringe theorist prone to wild speculation. He has spent decades building a reputation as a serious, respected scientist who asks difficult questions that others prefer to avoid. His analysis of 3I Atlas is backed by careful examination of observational data, mathematical modeling, and a willingness to consider explanations that sound like science fiction but might actually be science fact. Loeb's hypothesis centers on the idea that 3I Atlas could be operating as a technological mothership, specifically designed to release smaller reconnaissance probes as it travels through our solar system. According to his interpretation of the data, the sudden dramatic brightness increases might not represent natural outgassing at all. Instead, they could indicate a sophisticated technological object systematically breaking apart and deploying smaller craft toward specific targets, particularly Mars. The timing of these brightness bursts becomes especially significant when examined closely. They occur with suspicious precision as the object approaches Mars, rather than following the random patterns expected from chaotic chemical reactions inside a comet nucleus. This apparent coordination is far too precisely orchestrated to represent mere coincidence. It suggests planning, intention, purpose. It looks like the kind of deliberate activity that characterizes intelligent behavior rather than mindless natural processes. The spacecraft theory provides a framework for explaining all the impossible behaviors that 3I Atlas has demonstrated. The forward-pointing light beam could represent an advanced propulsion system or a sophisticated communication device transmitting signals back toward the object's point of origin. The bizarre chemical composition could indicate construction using artificial materials that do not form through natural stellar processes. The precise trajectory could reflect deliberate navigation rather than random gravitational influences. Loeb became particularly interested when astronomers discovered another object called C 2025R 2SWAN, which appeared to be traveling from the same general cosmic direction. Early calculations suggested this newly discovered comet might actually be a fragment or probe that had been released by 3IATLAS during its passage near Mars. If true, this would provide concrete evidence supporting the mothership hypothesis. It would demonstrate that 3I Atlas is not just passing through our solar system by chance, but is actively deploying technology and conducting exploration activities. The implications of Loeb's hypothesis are staggering. If 3I Atlas truly represents alien technology, then humanity is not alone in the universe. Somewhere out there, another civilization advanced enough to build interstellar spacecraft has taken an interest in our corner of the galaxy. They have sent a probe to study our planets, map our solar system, and perhaps assess whether intelligent life has emerged on Earth. Navigation that looks intentional. The path that 3I Atlas follows through our solar system demonstrates a level of precision that makes seasoned astronomers question whether they are observing natural gravitational dynamics or something far more sophisticated. This visitor maintains a trajectory that runs almost perfectly parallel to the ecliptic plane, the flat disk where all our planets orbit. Achieving this level of alignment from interstellar space is statistically improbable to the point of being nearly impossible through random chance alone. Think of it this way: space is three-dimensional. Objects can approach from any angle, any direction. The probability of an interstellar visitor naturally arriving on a path that aligns so precisely with our planetary orbital plane is roughly equivalent to threading a needle while blindfolded from a distance of several million miles. It can happen, but the odds are so astronomically small that when it does occur, we have to seriously consider whether something other than chance is at work. Most objects entering our solar system from interstellar space arrive at chaotic angles. They come in high or low or sideways relative to the planetary disk. Their paths reflect the random gravitational influences they encountered during their long journeys through the cosmic void. They wander in, swing around the sun, following whatever trajectory physics dictates, and then wander back out into the darkness. There is no pattern, no purpose, no apparent intention behind their motion. 3I Atlas is different. Its trajectory shows signs of strategic thinking. The object passes close enough to Mars to enable detailed observations and potential sample collection, yet it maintains a carefully calculated distance from Earth that avoids triggering alarm or requiring defensive measures. This selective approach to planetary encounters feels less like random chance and more like deliberate mission planning. The precision extends to timing as well as position. When 3I Atlas reaches its closest approach to the Sun, called perihelion, it will be positioned directly behind our star from Earth's perspective. The Sun's overwhelming brightness and intense electromagnetic radiation will make observation virtually impossible from our planet. Whether by design or extraordinary coincidence, the object will be effectively invisible during the phase of its journey when it has maximum exposure to solar energy. If something is going to happen, if some system is going to activate, if any significant change is going to occur, this would be the perfect time to do it without human eyes watching.